I want to start off by thanking everyone for welcoming me. I've not actually been in this room at this podium since a night in October in 2023 when I was selected as a Labour Party candidate for this constituency. So it's nice to be back in this room, albeit obviously I've now got some more responsibility on my shoulders as not the candidate for this constituency, but as the Member of Parliament for it. That is and always will be my most important job. As much as it is genuinely a delight to work with Wes and with the ministerial team at the Department for Health. And I will go into a little bit, for those of you who are not across the intricacies of Parliament, into exactly what a parliamentary private secretary is. It sounds very grand, and I'll try and illuminate a little bit of light on that, but my first and most important job is always standing up and representing this constituency and people across it. I want to start by thanking the Healthwatch staff, volunteers and board members for all your hard work and commitment to patients and giving people a voice. The unique role the organisation plays to hold decision makers accountable, to ensuring that services meet patient need and that we need to bolster trust in our NHS. I recently had an 80-stop tour of this constituency over the summer. I went out, I held public meetings, I went and knocked on doors to hear directly from people about the challenges that affect them and their communities. And I think it would be very, very fair to say that everything that's been raised as part of these presentations struck true with me at some point when I was out on that tour. Across the constituency, you know, the challenges that we face living in what is England's largest constituency and going from some relatively urban constituency, relatively urban parts of the constituency, all the way out to some of the far more rural, far more sparse communities. There is an incredible diversity of communities within this constituency. The challenges faced are not replicated in one area. They are diverse, they are extremely challenging for communities within them, and therefore when I go down to Parliament to represent them, I often have to have about 3 different conversations to cover the breadth of challenges facing one constituency, because life in Hexham is very different to life in Otterburn, which is very different to life in Throckley. And as I'm sure you can imagine, that means that when I go and meet with ministers, I often have to ask for a slightly longer slot than people representing simply a city seat. The 10-year plan is an incredibly important piece of work. It's something that is needed to, I think as Wes said, to make sure that the NHS is able to get back onto its feet, that the organisation may have been broken in the past 14 years, but it's not been beaten. I'm not going to be too political in this speech, but I think it's worth emphasising that when we came into government, we did find an extremely challenging situation with our public services. Hiding from that is not the right thing to do. It's not honest. It just leads to politicians tying themselves in knots and looking a bit silly. But in terms of the 10-year plan and what we see, moving care back into community and ensuring that the NHS truly does become a neighbourhood health service is something that's really important. And my role within the department, and whenever I'm down in Parliament, I also chair the Labour group of rural MPs. And traditionally, I think before the election we had 2 rural MPs, we now have 122 rural MPs. My voice has been making sure that whether it's the 10-year plan or any other government strategies being formulated, that we're considering the needs of rural communities just as much as we consider the needs of central Manchester, central Newcastle, central London. Because for too long, rural communities have not been spoken about in the way they need to be. Their challenges have been ignored or glossed over. And I'm never going to let that happen as long as I'm able to give voice to it. So the 10-year plan does talk about moving that care back into communities, and I think situating that care within communities, and it looks different for different areas. You know, we can't promise shiny new things for everyone. What we have to do is be honest with the public, be level with people about what can be done, and find what is practical, what is achievable, and make sure that is delivered appropriately. I said I'd go into a little bit about what my role is as Parliamentary Private Secretary. For the political arcanists among you, it means that when you watch Wes deliver a statement to health questions, I'm sat behind him. Essentially, my role is to make sure that across Parliament, not just across the Labour Party, but across every MP, that concerns from backbenchers are genuinely being heard by departments. So when it's whether it's making sure that ministerial questions are being answered properly and promptly, that letters are being responded to in the correct time frame, that issues are being addressed by ministers, and that people are not sort of simply being fobbed off or ignored. That's my role. I go across Parliament, I work with colleagues of all parties where I can, just to make sure the day-to-day running of the organisation goes quicker and is done properly, and that colleagues are able to be heard with respect and with clarity. I do feel, and again, when I was reappointed, I was delighted to continue working with Wes. I am absolutely lucky to work with a team that has such a breadth of talent. Zabir Ahmed, who was until recently a PPS alongside me, has just moved up to become Minister in the Department for Health. It's a truly exceptional ministerial team that I get to work with, but also is one that knows the challenges that we face. We can't just be about putting sticking plasters over problems that we've got. In terms of my constituency office, I said that a lot of what's being raised already has been brought up. Roughly 15 to 16% of the cases that I dealt with, and I think we've recently cleared our 10,000th case since the general election in my office. So about 15-16% of those are related to local health services. Obviously, I won't go through the issues that you've seen, that you've already seen. On the digital point that's been mentioned, I think one thing that's really important to remember is we absolutely understand that not everyone can use digital, not everyone can use an app. But if you're seeking to enhance access for those that can't use an app, getting those people who can use an app to use the app is the best way of kind of clearing the backlog and making sure that those who have no other option but to use the kind of more analog system are able to get through a lot quicker. So I think that's a really important element of making sure that the service is fit for the 21st century while not leaving anyone behind. And when I've been going out into Otterburn, into Allen Heads, into the really, into Burness and into other villages and communities at the far more isolated part of the constituency, the concern about being digitally excluded is very real. I'm absolutely alive to that, and picking up those concerns of, even the switch over from copper wire to fibre and to is something that's raised consistently with me in those communities, and I push it with industry as much as I can, and I push it with departments. But I'm able, through my position, to continue to feed back the concerns of constituents directly to government. Now, the other part about being a PPS is I'm not allowed to speak about health in the chamber. So normally if people write to me or have a meeting with me and I'm able to address their issue, I can send them a nice copy of Hansard showing that I've addressed their issue. With my role in the health team, I address it privately because I'm unable to speak on it. So that's why, following this today, you won't all be getting a lovely copy of Hansard with my tribute to the great team at Healthwatch Northumberland. I just want to say, as has been alluded to, I understand that we'll continue to work together as constructively as we can for as long as we can. I want to invite all of you to continue to share your insights with myself, with my office. It genuinely does help to inform our work. It helps to inform the conversations that I have every single week with ministers, and to make sure that the needs of every community across this pretty vast and diverse constituency isn't forgotten. And we'll always need to see greater collaboration between the government, between staff, patients, and indeed advocates. And wherever I can sort of play a role as a convener, as an advocate, as a spokesperson for this constituency, I will always do my best to do that. And just once again want to reiterate my gratitude towards Healthwatch, towards everyone, and towards all of you for listening to me.
Thank you.